Okay, there's no reason why um, we should be paying more for a haircut than we do for our lawn care.
You know,
Now I'm
wait,
Texan and I'm Southern, and there's no reason why I should be paying, $65 for my haircut if my lawn doesn't cost it. It's literally half of that. So,
it costs that much just to put some fescue on the ground. They tripping.
man, I
Yeah.
talked to Edgar maybe um, 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago,
Okay.
um, and he says, "Hey man, have you heard from Rico?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him in a couple of hours." Yeah, but he wanted to know how you're doing because he thought you were still in Oklahoma. So
Oh
with the
yeah,
freeze
no.
and all, Dallas got frozen solid like a popsicle. We didn't know what was gonna happen in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Now Oklahoma actually, Aaliyah's there with two of my grandbabies.
Hmm.
One of them fresh out.
Hmm.
She's there, and so Oklahoma's fine. Like they don't their infrastructure is based off of the symbiotic system of Tornado Alley. So everybody from North Dakota down to Oklahoma, they depend on each other for power in the event that there's an outage. I believe like if something happened and we had like a severe black or brownout, then
Hmm.
South Dakota's backup system would pick up for us. So
Gotcha.
power wise, they were fine. It was cold. It definitely was cold, but
Mhm.
it's nothing new. Like Oklahoma's had a few blizzards in the past 10 years. Basically stay in the house, don't go nowhere unless you absolutely have to, which is kind of what the way things have been going for everybody for the past year.
Yeah, you would think that it's not too much of a change, but the way this worked out here, and I know your mom went through it too, but it's not really about locking in. It was really more about the lack of resources because when a catastrophe
Hmm.
happens, I mean, you can buy up all the groceries you want, but eventually you're going to forget something and
Yeah,
you do need to go somewhere. And there was
yeah,
nothing out there. I mean, there's still not even baby water out there, you know. So
yeah. No,
yeah, they took care of business when it came down to clearing out the grocery aisle. You would have, yeah, it was critical, but everyone's still in recovery mode now. A
yeah.
lot of people had it a lot more unfortunate than others, and so we're thankful we survived.
How's the
But
water resources going right now?
um, tight, I think people are trying to go and get out of panic mode.
Hmm.
Because you go through a week of that, and that's a level of attrition that most people aren't really prepared for. And then the next thing you
Hmm.
do is you come out of it and say, hey, now let's make sure that never happens to us again. So let's go clear the
Yeah.
grocery
Yeah.
aisles, get all the gas tanks that we can. Um, so I always consider 1 week of recovery equates to 2 weeks of pandemonium in the stores. So
I
the
got you.
water resources aren't there yet, but they're coming back,
Hmm.
and it's okay. Gas stations have them, but grocery stores don't. Most people don't think to go to the gas station to get their resources, like a grocery
Hmm.
resource. But we're in the inner
Yeah.
city. I mean, no, we go to gas stations and corner stores like we call them all the time. All right, welcome to Qualified the podcast. I'm your host Hassan, and with me I have Houston's own, Oklahoma's own, California's own Derrico Thomas. Derrico Thomas is an actor, writer, thespian all the way through, an illustrator, though he doesn't want to admit it anymore. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but we have a long-standing relationship that we want to cover a lot of ground on in this brief period of time.
Mhm.
But for that, let me get the man on his audio to make sure he can hear us okay. Dorico, you're here,
Loud and clear. Yeah, got you, man. I'm reading you.
loud and clear. All right, let's start off with an origin story.
Huh.
I I met you when I was 4 foot 11, 120 pounds in ninth grade. So
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
talked to you about this, I said, "Wow, there's a lot that we can talk about. We can talk about displacement in high school. We can talk about growth in terms of artistry, martial arts, a lot. We'll
Hmm.
probably pinpoint a few things for a later on conversation. But what I did want to know, and I thought about this maybe about 2 hours ago, out of everything that you've done, why did you stick to acting so much?"
Man, that's a great question. I actually felt like acting was the greatest depiction of the human condition, and it would incite the greatest change. I, being from where we were from, we are always told find a way to make sure that you're able to have a roof over your head and food in your belly. And when you go to bed at night, make sure that you feel like you made a difference. So the minute I hit the stage for the first time, to the curtain call, when I had people literally coming up to me in tears telling me that what I did and what I said on stage rang true for them, was not just the moment that I became an actor, is the moment I became an activist, trying to do my best to incite change through performance. So yeah, that's big for me. That's it. It was gonna be nothing but acting for me after that point. Now everything else, I pretty much tell everybody I know, hey, look, I know just enough to be dangerous, but acting is the most impactful thing it is that I feel that I can do. And of course that's wound up branching itself out into filmmaking. But yeah, absolutely. Acting from the jump, from the get-go.
Yeah, I was honored to watch your evolution, right? And what I mean by that, for those that are going to pick up on this, that know us, know you directly, but then also are newcomers to both of us. In that school, that's a breeding ground for abstract talent. I mean, and most high school
Yeah.
is, but by the fact that we're in a effectively a segregated section for half the day, that
Mm-hmm.
allows us to develop and cultivate in terms of academia that maybe the other students don't get. But then in the
Mm-hmm.
interim, when you go through the shared classes, so theater or band, or depending on which route you take, here
Mm-hmm.
I am walking down the hallway, completely distracted by everything else that I'm doing because I'm a space
Mm-hmm.
case. But I catch a tone of piano in a back room, and I said, "Oh wow, somebody's playing piano." Now I thought for sure this would be a girl playing piano, just because that's how distracted I am. I turn around, I look in the door, and it's you, and I know you, and I said, "He doesn't know how to play piano, but you learn how to play piano by ear, like
Yeah.
just just by constant application and practice." But I mean, this is shy of my cousin Michael. I don't know too many pianists, but I don't know a one besides you that just learned it as they went. you know, and
Yeah.
and and I found that amazing. Now let me just keep going further. That was one wow moment. The second wow moment is that clearly we bonded over illustration. So
Absolutely.
so I knew that you could draw, and we always looked at anime for the time being, and our anime is different than what Imani's anime is, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, we straight Ninja Scroll Wicked City. She still is not allowed to watch Wicked City.
oh
Yeah.
man, that's gonna create a groove in her brain that she can't get out. You know, that one scene with the teeth. Like you're like, oh no, 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 cover your eyes until you're 35. You can't watch this.
Not at all until you paying my bills. That's when you can watch that show.
Exactly. Until you taking care of me and wiping my butt, then you can watch
Pretty
that.
much.
uh,
Deal. Yeah.
but so I would consider those the top three. So you have music, you have visual art, and then you go into thespianism. And
Mhm.
thank you, Ms. Dupree. Thank you for putting up with a knucklehead like me, letting us do sound tech. By the way, but you were the key to this. Because I wasn't going anywhere fast. But you were the key to this, um, and I know that she helped you kind of unlock those talents, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that I owe 100% of my skill as an actor to Mr. Pretty, without a doubt.
So then, can you take me briefly on a journey from leaving high school, going to OU, and then to LA?
Um, Rough, real talk, especially with the way the pandemic has been as of late. But it was a rough ride. But I would say that what I have to offer once I am doing a lot more mainstream work is uh, a plethora of life experience. Because once I got to OU, I had to actually unlearn some things so that I could learn them properly. Um, and I wound up really expanding my knowledge as a person as well as an actor. And then much like any story in college, I met this girl and I couldn't live without her, but we could not live on an actor's salary. So I joined the Navy and became an aircraft mechanic. Whole nother situation there. From there, I wound up acting in Virginia. What plays? If I wasn't on the boat, I was acting, and then I wound up going down to Florida. What I was always told by my teacher is there is never a point where you can't be honing your skill and honing your craft. So everywhere I went in the military, if there was a stage there, I was doing my best to be on it. Period. That was just how it was going to be. And then, fast forward about 12 years and a whole bunch of kids, we decided that we was going to go to California, and California would be like the place where once the kids got situated, I would get started. Life happens. I wound up getting sick. I wound up getting cancer, had to get out of the military, and wound up actually coming back to Oklahoma to do acting there. So the most ironic thing throughout all of this is I'm back in California now, but by the time I got to Oklahoma, I was actually doing more feature films, shorts, and independent films than I had in my entire career as an actor in California. So that was like, it was insane. It was crazy because I wound up finding out the real deal as far as acting. A lot of people, unless you're extremely established, don't sit in LA. You want to eat, you're not going to be in LA. So, once you get to the point where you're halfway decent and people know you when you walk in a room, you go into places like Atlanta or Oklahoma or, Poughkeepsie, New York to film, Florida, and sometimes Texas. And it just kind of gives you more. So it's almost like, as an actor, you're a traveling actor when you're trying to get your name out there. You're really somebody that's doing your best to have no need for introduction when you walk into the room, and that kind of means that you have to have as many different people in front of you and networking with them as much as possible. So yeah, that's what's happened to this point has basically given me a great deal as far as combat training and aviation and engineering. Hell, I actually learned to become a better chef and cook in the military, and that was completely by accident. So, and just kind of learning as I go. So I truly do know just enough to be dangerous, and I have a great deal of life experiences. So that was the best thing about it.
Yeah, I used to describe you when we would just talk to other people, and somebody would ask about you, and I said, my buddy is a true Renaissance man because you had your hands in everything. And abstractly, I learned how to cook on accident too. And it's mainly, I owe that all to being married and poor. So, it's just a matter of we're going to have to either learn how to cook or we're going to need to jump a tax bracket here because I like to eat nice and I like to eat nice things.
Yeah, you eat real nice. Yeah.
We can't afford them. So I got to learn how to cook this stuff because otherwise you're talking about, $100 a meal pre-drinks, and we don't have that money. But in the sense of all the things that you did learn, the way that you apply them, and clearly that has a lot to do with how you can call on characters and create different feelings through your acting. It's a lot of experiences, but what you did mention is something I wanted to touch on, which was, would you argue that the talent pool maybe isn't as big elsewhere than versus LA? And is that how, people can eat and keep working? Or is it just a political relationship?
Man, you know what? I'm going to say something. I'm going to give you that in two parts. First part is the talent pool in LA is enormous, and as much of a talent I believe I am, I also believe that in LA I will be competing with at least 20,000 people of the same caliber. And with that said, there's not just 20,000 people in LA trying to be actors. We're looking at upwards of 2 million. So the talent pool is diluted when you are an actor outside of LA. You can still be an actor in California. Fresno is like not even 40 miles away from me, and they have people there. but somebody of what it is, somebody who can do what I can do in Oklahoma is going to be usually on the short list, regardless of race, gender, or identification, because I have, like I said, I know different things. My resume has everything from martial arts to dance and ballet, modern dance, cooking, horseback riding, survivalist training, uh, basically fitness, and then we're getting into the illustration and voiceover and singing and playing the piano by ear. So that gives me to the short list in some places, really like every place else outside of LA. I know I'm on a short list, and
Right.
that's really cool. I just have to be willing to travel to go to the different places in order to get there. Um,
Sure. Do you feel that are you currently represented right now?
in Oklahoma, I am represented. Here in
Okay.
California, I am not represented just because I haven't. I'm SAG eligible. I got my eligibility probably a couple of years ago.
Mm,
The issue I had as far as that was I would not be able to, even though I would probably be on whatever list for someone who was a part of the union, I would not be able to take like independent projects and short films. And for someone
mm,
who's really trying to do their best to network and be a part of the new voices that are out there, it's
yeah.
very difficult to do that if you're not union. If you're union,
So there is
yeah.
still politics involved in this.
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
was actually told the second part of that. I was actually told that regardless of whether you're in LA or bunk funk, you know, Poughkeepsie, New York, you work so hard to you basically have no need of introduction when you walk into a room. It's not
Sure.
who you know, or it's not what you know. It actually isn't who you know. It's actually more, but most above all, who knows you. So
Oh
that was
wow.
a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
So
bar. That's a bar. Yeah.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
in my arrogance, um, and I probably still say this every once in a while just to select people, not everybody. But in my arrogance, I used to say that like I don't want to walk into a room and have to say anything. But there's people, you know, we're talking about the knucklehead era. There's people that when I came up, they say,
Hmm.
you know, you, 'cause I'm chatty, and they said, well, you know, you really
Hmm.
don't have to say that much. You should just wear more jewelry. If you wore more jewelry, you wouldn't have to say anything. Yeah, I don't think that's my style. Like I don't think that's how we're gonna do this. You
Yeah,
know,
no. Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's cool. Hey,
Absolutely.
shout out to Dead End while we're at it. But nonetheless, and Hillwood too, because you're from there. See,
Oh
this
yeah,
is the,
all
this
day
is the
long.
joy. This is the joy of talking about this because we have to be not unfortunately, but by default we're Texas centric. But
Mhm.
the tale of you as well as the tale of me, should we ever have to talk about that, is inner city kid learning outside of inner city better opportunity.
Mhm.
It's effectively it. I mean, that's the best way I can summarize it if somebody wanted an elevator pitch. The the thing I wanted to talk to you about, or what I would like for you to actually discuss, is family support
Mhm.
during these times because this is a commitment. Um, it's not. It doesn't pay in money more than it pays in merit first. And
Yes.
for even for me, by example, doing the photography, I made a decision a while ago to kind of hone in the skills for what the city could provide because I wasn't going to leave. See, by
Mhm.
comparison, you left,
Yeah.
and for that, it afforded you totally different opportunities. But
Mhm.
within Texas, you can either be a commercial photographer, corporate photographer, maybe go work in the studios of Macy's or J.C. Penney's at the time. You know,
Mhm.
move back and forth to Dallas doing contact cards and stuff for models. I'm going to post your contact card because I found it, by the way, the one that I made.
Yeah.
So look, say, oh, look at this Luke Cage looking guy. So, um, but
Yeah.
for that, that was the decision that I had to make.
Mhm.
Establishing a relationship, having to deal with the baby, growing or raising the kid, and knowing that we couldn't uproot, at least by my decision, couldn't uproot to go take the adventure
Mhm.
that would probably yield more results artistically. But you did do it.
Yeah.
But I would hate to ask you if you had to do it all over again, would you? Because I kind of know the answer, but I mean, but the sacrificing the family. Can you talk about that?
Um. Yeah, I would say that if I had to do it all over again, I actually would have done it differently.
Mm,
Um, we made a lot of sacrifices, and there was planning, but there was not enough contingency planning for things that we just were not able to see, like financially, or even just when you had as many kids as we did at that time period. I think we were at four, and it was
mm,
like my birthday, and I went down to Dallas because my agent, actually not the agent, but the actual casting director for a movie called me and said, "Hey, look, he doesn't have you in mind, but he's gonna cast you once he sees you read." And be like, "Hey, can you
mm,
be down here in Dallas tomorrow morning?" And I'm like, bruh. He's like, "Trust me, just do it." So I'm like, okay. So then my agent comes in, calls me, Barry Switzer's wife actually,
okay.
calls me and says, "Hey, look, he just said it. So go in." I go down there and I audition, and then the director's like, "Yeah, you're amazing. Yeah, you got the part." So matter of fact, I actually was on the road, and I came back to celebrate my birthday, and then the casting director called me and said, "Happy birthday, you're on the road." So, but what wound up happening is I had like 3 weeks away from my family, and
Mm,
that was difficult. I had at that time period I had a 6-year-old son, 8-year-old daughter,
mhm,
and then two preteen children who desperately needed access to me. And
yeah,
so 3 weeks, man, I seem like a long time to some people, but when you have a close knit family, 3 weeks is like an eternity, especially the
yeah,
kids who have no temporal awareness. So it's
mhm,
one of those things where, had I the ability to do it over again, I would have done a little bit more financial planning so that I was not in the position where, as soon as an opportunity arose, I was jumping up and driving 200 miles out of the way, and ultimately, driving another 350 miles further just to shoot a movie, and then come back, and then my house is in disarray. So
yeah,
yeah, I would have done things. I definitely would have done things differently. And actually, as Imani, she's the artist. She's like me. I've been talking to her about financial discipline so that we can kind of work some things out, and it's kind of seeping in a little bit. Of course, she's at that freak out moment right now because she's like, "Oh
yeah.
crap, I'm an adult like in less than a week. Her 18th birthday is next week."
Oh my.
So exactly. So
Mm,
we're like, "Oh, what do we do?" So it's one of those things where like we're gonna get you situated financially first, so that way 10 years down the line you got that pretty much that go to hell pay where you can very much say the boss is saying, "Oh yeah, you need to go ahead and do all of this right now, you're fired." You can be like, "All right, go to hell, I got what I need backed up already," kind of thing.
yeah.
But yeah, support is big. But I really, everything it is that I've done, everything, every commercial, every print shoot, every indie film, shorts, whether I got paid or not, I would not have been able to do it anywhere near as well if I did not have my wife holding me down the whole time. So yeah, family support
Okay.
is big. Um, and your kids seeing you follow your dreams is how it is that they're able to actually say that it's okay for them to have a dream. So that's what
Yeah.
I've been doing in this. That's like, Imani and Mikkel, they are like steadfast. Mikkel's like writing every day now, like
Mm,
every day, and working on scripting. And Imani, of course, now she's starting her writing, and she's kind of, pretty much finding her way, and she's coming up with like different types of graphic novels and webtoons she's trying to do. So family support typically lends itself, or it evolves into family dreams. And so yeah, would have done things differently, but they still would have had the same outcome, I believe.
I believe that too. I'm incredibly biased to you, so like I would believe it because I'm vested in terms of your growth, your family's growth. Uh, so Imani's going to be 18, Mikhail's 16.
He'll be 16 in April. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, See, these are special moments now, because you're right. They're watching you continue on with everything that you've established
Hmm.
before they were born. And you can let them know that this has been a slow and steady pace, but the success is these items. You can see these things.
Yeah.
Uh, like I put together a trophy room in here of sorts so that, when Sydney walks in to look at it, yeah, he says, "Well, what are these?" "Okay, these are mine." "Oh, wow, can I have them?" "No,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
own them." So you can get them yourself. I'll give them to you when I'm gone, just like Dad did to me. He gave, he's got his
Yeah.
championship trophies. Like, great. I'm glad I got them. I have mine too,
Yeah.
and but it was the nature of looking at that and wanting so badly to know what it
Hmm.
felt like to have it, not have yours, but to have it
Hmm.
also. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
and maybe that's something meritorious about it. I mean, it clearly is because you're getting an award for competition.
Yeah.
However, I think it's a perfect example that you're casting, no matter what, because even if you fall down, they're watching you get back up,
Yeah.
and that's important. That's important. Uh, okay, so it's beautiful. I like what you said. The other or the last actually point that I'd like to make, unless you want to throw something else in on this, is the book. So you're self-published, at least by one book. How many books have you written?
Actually, two now self-published. So the first was young adult fantasy that I'm actually in the process of rewriting, and I'll tell you that tell you why later.
Mhm.
And a basically a relationship guide for married couples called Love on Purpose. So that's what I co-wrote with my wife, Michelle.
Mhm.
So yeah, but the book, it was important to me. I kind of wrote it at a time period where I felt like I didn't have anything financially to leave my kids, and it was really, really depressing at that point. And when I said leave my kids, it's because I was actually told that I was probably going to literally and physically and figuratively be leaving the earth and leaving my family behind some 10, 12 years ago. And
Mhm.
once I kind of found out that one, I was out of the woods a little bit on one, and but still hanging in the balance on the other, I just thought about what can I leave my kids? And I was like, they don't have a story, and I was sitting there and um, I was going through, I think, getting ready to go through my next round of chemo, and I heard Iman Mikhail playing in the middle of the night. You know how kids do. It's the middle of the night. You can't go to sleep. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I heard
Yeah.
them say something. I was like, man, that sounds kind of cool. I think I'll write a book. So that's exactly what I did. I just wrote a book. The downside was I realized that once I self-published, I actually did not write a book. I just self-published a manuscript that I should have taken a great deal of time to edit, to read, reread, write, and rewrite
Mhm.
over and over again until someone could actually look at it and say, okay, now it's ready to be edited. Yeah, something that
Sure.
writers hardly ever understand is that your
Yeah.
book may be done. You're never done writing the book.
Yeah.
It's just less crappy, pretty much. It's a
Yeah.
story that now is marketable. That's pretty much where you are. So there's always that rewrite. So I'm actually rewriting that in the
Mhm.
process of writing more books and writing more things. So 2022 is actually going to be a pretty big year for me as a writer because I've a writer in the filmmaking as far as screenwriting. That's going to be like really big for me because there are stories that I want to tell that I feel have not been told yet.
Mhm.
Either they haven't been told or they've been bought and purchased and shelved, and
Yeah.
so that's not doing any good for any of us. I think people like Tomi Adeyemi with Children of Blood and Bone and Yede Okorafor, they have basically beat the odds, and made women like Octavia Butler proud because there's the stories that they've been able to get past the muck and mire so the mainstream America can actually say, oh wow, that was really great. So now it's kind of opened the door. And I feel
Sure.
like with that happening, definitely time for me to kind of make sure that all my stories are in order. So that's the biggest thing for me. It's real. I'm really excited about it. So but the book is
Yeah.
called The Waters of Owinge, Iwingee, and it's actually going to be going on Amazon. The manuscript will be on Amazon for free up until I actually rewrite the book and I'm ready to remove it because that's going to be the biggest thing. So all of this year, anybody who wants the book, say basically, I believe right around April 1st, I'm going to have the book on Amazon completely for free. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to remove the book and no one's going to see anything else of it until I get literary representation, get it fully edited, and get it published. So my goal is by 2023, 2024, with decent marketing and put my face out there. Yeah, it's going to be along those same lines. I've put everything out there in the universe that I can put, and I'm getting moving on that.
Absolutely. So if you're listening, you need to get the raw copy of this manuscript before it is out of print completely. So that means you have until the end of this year. So my guys were talking to me after I was doing some coaching, and there's a bullet point about this before I let you go that I need you to talk about. But I was doing the coaching with photography with a group of photographers, more or less. I learned on film. So yes, there's some academia that goes along with this, and I definitely have the technical aspects of what college would teach you in art school. It would teach you about how to capture, frame, compose, even develop. However, these guys are incredibly good on digital. Now, I'm no slouch on digital, but I am published and shown and part of permanent collections via film. So what I effectively am doing with them is bridging a 20-year gap of information, because digital photography was introduced to me when I was in college. I was dealing with a 1973 hard frame Canon A1, and then we started to talk about digital backs. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it, but they keep telling me that I'm doing master classes and, oh, you need to get this together on another platform. I said, okay, well, how about now? Your photography, because you are a photographer as well. Tell the people where they can find you for that, as well as any other avenue that you need.
You can actually find me at cbderricophotography.com. Basically being based out of California. I also do work in Texas and Oklahoma as well. It's just a matter of, the client and what they're hoping to do, things like that. And you can find me on Instagram at Captured by Derrico Photography. And actually there are a few other things, because as far as relationship and sex and intimacy coaching, me and Michelle have a page called Classic Kinky Culture. So it's all K, so KLASSY_KINKY_KULTURE. And yes, that play on K's is purely intentional.
Let her know that we need to get you both on to discuss this, because I believe there's something much bigger than what the rest of this podcast would be. Discussing intimacy coaching, the necessities of putting your pride aside and actually getting into these groups so you can learn more. I think that's incredibly important, and I would like to have her on to discuss it also.
Absolutely, she's actually pretty excited about that too. So whenever you're ready, we'll be ready to do that too.
This is what we do. This has been the Qualified Podcast. We'll end it now with Derrico Thomas. More information will be coming shortly for his links and how to access him. Until then, you all stay safe and stay healthy.